Assalamu alaikum. The last 6 months I spent in Turkey, a country that is dear and very close to my heart.
Turks are very passionate people.
I was there to study and learn what is happening with Turkey's economy. Turkey, a country with a rich history, diverse culture, and a population of over 85 million people. Located at a crossroads between Europe and Asia, Turkey is a unique bridge between East and the West, with a heritage that spans centuries. From the ancient civilizations to the Ottoman Empire, Turkey's history is a tapestry of influences that have shaped its cultural identity. Today, the country is a vibrant mix of modernity and tradition, with bustling cities, pristine coastlines, and stunning landscapes. In recent years, Turkey has emerged as a major player in the global economy.
Turkey's economy continues to fire on all cylinders. Its GDP grew 7.4% in the third quarter compared to the same period last year.
I'm here in Istanbul actually making a documentary film about Turkey's economy. Today in my presentation I was talking about last 20 years of Turkey's economy.
My name is Almir Colan'ın. I'm from Australia, and I was always captivated by the way economy and finance works.
My father used to say, you can judge economy by the movement of the ships and trucks on the road. So whenever you see economy working, people are investing, they are confident about building the business, you'll see the movements in economy.
First time I visited Turkey was in 1998, the year when I got married. I remember that Friday when I went to Juma, I witnessed something amazing, and I took this particular photo. There were huge demonstrations, tens of thousands of people everywhere protesting about something which, because I didn't speak the language, I didn't know anything about. There was no Google, no translation, nothing. It was a demonstration against government ban on hijab. In those days, young ladies, girls couldn't go to university and have hijab. Even the boys, they had to shave. So they would protest by drawing the mark with the markers, fake beards. At the time, in 1990s, the country was going through deep economic turmoil, high unemployment rates, government and banking system that was not able to support economic growth. This eventually led to 2001 economic crisis, which later led to the rise of AK Party in 2002. Fast forward 20 years, and my own daughter was studying language at Istanbul University while wearing a headscarf. The country was totally transformed, not just socially and with religious freedom, but Turkey has transformed itself into a very powerful industrial economy. But looking at what media is reporting about the situation in Turkey and what I'm reading in economic data, I feel sometimes as if we are talking about two different countries.
Turkey's problems don't look set.
Look here, the Turkish lira crashing.
The economic crisis is now apolitical.
In fact, having a conversation with one of my colleague academic who is teaching at Western University, he painted a very negative picture. He told me Turkey is in such a bad shape that it actually needs to import wheat from Russia. And he said that in last 20 years, the capacity to produce the food and so on has been diminishing. It was a shocking information. I wonder if that was the truth, if there was a context, or is there something that is missing in what I'm reading and hearing. I decided then and there that I will go and travel, inshallah, to Turkey and see firsthand what is going on.
How are we feeling?
We are feeling good.
Yeah. I can't wait on next week tonight.
No sleeping tonight.
Okay, you're gonna see
Early morning flight.
Plane.
Beautiful. Thank you guys for dropping me off. My pleasure.
Thank you guys for dropping me off. My pleasure. My pleasure to be here. Oh my god, wow, I can't believe it. This is so exciting.
We are ready to go.
Yok atmaz. Yeni adım böyle. Hayır zaten. Bak.
Meral Akşener atar mı?
In Turkey, I found a beautiful apartment in the area called Bayrampaşa. A lot of Bosnian people, Bosniak people live in that area. My heritage is Bosnian, born in Sarajevo. And after the war there that happened, I came to live in Australia for over 20 years now.
We are in Kartaltepe, area of Bayrampaşa municipality. It's a beautiful area. Let me show you around a little bit. As soon as you walk out, the mosque welcomes you. This is what I want you to see. One of the beautiful things here that I really enjoy is after the prayer, people gather here, they drink tea. During the World Cup, we watch the soccer here. Sometimes we have very deep conversation until very late in the night. So people are so friendly, neighborhood is so relaxed. People are welcoming. You feel so good.
Now, the first conversation that I wanted to have was with young people, youth. I started by asking them a question: what do they think about economy?
This is really complicated for me.
If I'm being very honest, the situation overall is complicated.
Okay, so right now the inflation is so high in Turkey.
Everything is just so expensive.
When I compare our economy and other countries' economy, actually I don't feel good.
I think it's not to feel, it doesn't make you feel good that you wake up and you are more poor than yesterday.
Either you're actually suffering, you're really struggling, or you're living in peace. We're not actually able to take care of ourselves anymore.
No matter where I went, when I talked to the young people, they were basically all concerned about very similar things.
We need to change something.
I will change all the system in this country.
Very bad. There is a bit of a desperation that you can feel in the voice of a lot of people at the moment. Huh?
We feel bad.
You feel bad?
Really?
Concern about the future. Why do you feel bad? I guess uncertainty.
It's economy, yeah.
What to dream, what to hope, what to change.
My journey began with a need to understand the country, its people, and how things truly were. And that meant traveling within.
You ready to go? We are getting ready for our trip. Let's go.
سبحان الذي سخر لنا هذا وما كنا له مقرنين وإنا إلى ربنا لمنقلبون.
Allah bless it and make it easy for us.
What's that on your neck? So this is the new road from Istanbul to Ankara.
Going around Istanbul and makes the way faster to Ankara and the Anatolian cities.
What's the most popular app?
TikTok now. And usually people like YouTube here. In Turkey, it's one of the most popular ones.
We just arrived to Ankara, meeting some friends, some business people, talking to the locals.
I have brother Almir from Australia, all the way. I'm so proud of him. I'm one of his fans. Now watching TRT World and TIA, common broadcasting together. So honored to have you, brother.
Thank you very much. Thank you very
so
much.
Honored to have you.
So happy to be here. So this is
A passionate entrepreneur with a medical background, Mr. Yavuz has been involved in various fields such as consulting, healthcare, investing and media. However, in 1990s, he and his wife had to leave Turkey.
We had a horrible phase in Turkey, unfortunately. We were under huge oppression. It was a postmodern coup, and we lost hope for Turkey. My wife is also a practicing Muslim, much better than me, mashallah. So she had hijab, and she said, Yavuz, I'm a medical school student. I'm the only daughter of a family. I believe in my values. I'm not going to take off my hijab, no matter what. They didn't let us enter the schools. They were interrogating. They had actually had special rooms to change your mindset. And they were saying, no, we're trying to give you options. But they were saying, they were making you sign a contract. And then they use this as a legal base to actually throw you. So my wife was a fifth-year medical school student. She had only 2 months left to graduate. And then they said, we just don't want to see you. And then we moved to the United States.
In Istanbul, I spoke with my friend and economist, Mr. Tariq, who currently heads a department at finance office at the presidency of Türkiye.
We can simply call 90s as the lost decade in many aspects, including economic performance more correctly.
Mr. Tariq became interested in economics after the worst financial crisis in Turkey's history that preceded 1990s.
The general feeling of people was desperation, including me.
I felt so initially hopeless, and seeing Turkey going through political turmoil was horrible.
One of the biggest problems in economic policy making in 90s is the over-indebtedness of the public sector, which caused a great harm on economy, and they were waiting for a new hope.
But alhamdulillah, with Recep Tayyip Erdoğan, a whole new vision has opened up.
That is why, in that election, AK Party came to the power as a new hope for an ordinary citizen.
As soon as hijab problem finished, my wife, my mother-in-law, they said, "Khalas, we cannot stop. Wait here. It's our country. We came for a reason. That reason passed. We cannot stay one day here." And then we moved back, and it was our top of career. I was the vice president of, a big French company. My wife was just about to make money, finishing fellowship and all that.
Returning to Turkey, Mr. Yavuz led the way in the country he once had to leave.
I came here as a World Bank consultant, supported the Turkish healthcare reform. Alhamdulillah, Turkey went through a huge transformation. United States couldn't implement Obamacare. We did. So in the United States, we have more than 80 million people without health insurance. Here, everybody has health insurance.
This point marked the beginning of Turkey's economic rise.
So Turkey has established and did a huge transformation in digital area, including healthcare digital transformation. Anyone in Turkey can go to your phone, do an appointment in 2 minutes to any physician that you like, and able to actually check all your records, everything for free. Turkey is using the healthcare technology and creating its own systems. Turkey is building its own MRI systems, its own CT scans. Turkey has leaped into not just a transformation in defense, but a huge transformation in healthcare. So many of the pharmaceutical products, both generic and branded, are produced from Turkey.
We are now in beautiful city Kayseri, checking industrial zone now, one of the largest in this region. And you were saying that there is about 1,000 factories here.
At least.
Our guide in a city of Kayseri was Professor Abdul Hakim, medical professional with extensive experience in management positions in academic institutions and leadership roles in various organizations. He also invested and founded a number of startups.
Kayseri is very well known from history as a trade city, commerce city.
In fact, this culture is so strong that establishing company between friends is something you just do.
For example, you go for dinner for your friend's house, and 6-7 friends establish a company immediately. During the dinner, for example, or during we say sohbet. Also in every...
We have seen how this works practically. You basically start with the idea, the prototype.
Here we are prototyping. This is the first prototype for motor drivers. This is the second prototype.
And before you know it, you are mass producing in one of the factories.
So if we were to come here in 6 months, this would go from the prototype to the mass production.
Yeah.
Right.
Our host then invited us to visit his friend in Kayseri who runs electric cable manufacturing company.
This is incredible, yeah? Look at this place, mashallah, buzzing. Like a lion roaring, this factory.
CEO of the company, Necmettin, gave us some insight into his business.
Dünyanın genelinde 55-60
We have continuous and regular exports to 55-60 countries around the world. This number can from time to time rise to 75 to 80.
Last year, this factory alone exported $250 million worth of cables export. And as a group, they did $500 million export.
Tabii jeopolitik konumu
Turkey's geopolitical position is very close to Europe. When you look at Istanbul as the center, the world's population is 3 hours away. When you draw a circle, most of the world's population lives in this circle. Therefore, being in this geographical location, it gives us great advantage in terms of logistics and manpower.
So now we have seen the production, and this is the final result. This is now ready for export. It's going to be, inshallah, loaded to containers. Just for the comparison to see how big it is. As you can see, it's a lot of steel, a lot of metal, aluminium, and everything in here. One of these, how much is one of these worth? $10,000. One of these is $10,000. Let's take one with us.
I asked him how things have changed in the past and today. He said,
Şimdi ben kısa bir hikayeyle bunu açıklayayım size.
Now let me explain it to you with a short story. In the 1970s, our late father and Serdar's father established a factory here. They imported machines of this factory from abroad. A minor fault would arise in the machine and they would bring an engineer from overseas buying a business class ticket and then pay an hourly wage to fix the machine malfunction. Now we are making the same machines with our own means in a more advanced way. This amazing path toward domestic production and independence brings us to beautiful manufacturing city of Bursa.
Look at how they are just assembling this. 150,000 square meters here. This is a laser machine, laser cutting machine being assembled here in Turkey. This is a robot that is handling the metal sheets and then they cut them here. Also this on the angle, these cuts on the angles. Laser welding machine. How does the laser weld?
These are conduction welding, not full penetration.
Oh, I see.
Almost zero gap and
let me see. So we have one of these machines that is used for bending. Most likely destination for export is Spain. For the shipyard industry, for example, produced here locally. Look how big this is. You can see one of them, this machine being disassembled and ready to go for export.
To understand this phenomenal success, I talked to Bursa's Vice President of Chamber of Commerce and CEO of Sampar Company, Mr. Cüneyt Çener.
My name is Cüneyt Çener. I'm the president of Sampar Company. We are designing, manufacturing, assembling parking systems worldwide. From New Zealand to Colombia, from Canada to South Africa, nearly 62 countries in the world. It is a culture in Bursa. Bursa is a city nearly 6,000 years old. This culture is coming in the roots of Bursa, in the blood of Bursa. We try to prepare the people, we try to arrange the system against today's and tomorrow's demands. You put one car up there and make it higher. This is the basic product that we are producing.
This is really interesting.
You have a parking problem.
Yeah.
In Sarajevo, in Melbourne, in Istanbul, same. If you want to compete someone, compete with Germany, compete with Italy. So we are trying to produce high technology, high added value products. If you are looking at the picture in short term, you can be desperate. It's true. But you need to do it a long term. What we are trying to do for next 20 years, next 60 years. We are trying to inform young people that be part of our dream, not desperate about future. To be part of our dream, what we are wanting from them, working, to be ready, to prepare themselves for the next step with their education, with their culture, with their passion. They need to do only this.
These people, when you talk to them, this kind of people, you see that genuinely their concern is for the young people. They are doing all of this for the next generation, for their sons, for their daughters, for their city, for their country.
My passion is about loving my country, loving my people, loving my city. If we can improve my city, my people, my neighbors in the city, it's my passion.
Everything that they are doing, there is a dream, there is a vision. They want to do the great job, just like their grandfathers or their fathers have done before. Those people left them a legacy, business, path, identity.
As we explore the future and the ways in which things are shaping up, we headed back to Istanbul to talk to my traveling companion, Mr. Ayman. Ayman is a venture-building professional with a passion for entrepreneurship and innovation.
Turkey in general, Istanbul in specific, is receiving huge amounts of interest from investors, businessmen, entrepreneurs to come either to expand their businesses, existing businesses, or to set up new businesses in here in Turkey and in Istanbul.
Ayman came to Turkey from Egypt because he saw the enormous potential of the country.
And the reason behind this is the growing infrastructure, technological and digital infrastructure that is taking place over the past 10 years in specific.
This brought him, along with many others, investors and business leaders, to start businesses that now have a global reach, all originating from Turkey.
The new concept that we might talk about here in Turkey is digital factories. Not only physical factories that are producing and exporting physical commodities and goods. We can also talk about digital factories where they are producing digital services and technologies and exporting them to the region and to the whole globe.
Of course, we have some problems coming from long times history. In economy, the numbers are very important, of course. The theoretical rules indicates that if there is high inflation, then it is an indication for a very bad economy. But Turkish economy is not easy to understand even for Nobel Prize economists.
Although I couldn't consult a Nobel Prize economist, I did turn to my friend Tariq, who has a wealth of experience and knowledge in the field.
An economy is not just composed of inflation or other macro-financial variables. They are important, I admit. However, we should look at economy in a holistic way.
After several hours of conversation, I realized that summarizing the key points from our discussion would be crucial in telling the full story of the Turkish economy. Back in 2002, Turkey ranked 18th among the world economies in terms of GDP size, with GDP serving as a key indicator of economic growth. Then, in 2021, Turkey ranked 11th in the world, surpassing Italy, Korea, Canada, and Spain. Over the past 2 decades, Turkey has emerged as the third best performing country among G20 nations in terms of cumulative real GDP growth, trailing only China and India. The World Bank states Turkey's economy grew 11% in 2021, the fastest amongst the G20 countries. The average GDP growth rate nearly doubled from before 2004 to this decade. Despite depreciation of the Turkish lira. The GDP per capita in US dollars has been increasing since 2020. Steady economic growth boosted per capita income, effectively doubling average household income in last 20 years. GDP performance before and after the AK party took power in the last 20 years is evident. This before and after comparison shows remarkable economic transformation. I'm just driving with my friend here, a taxi driver, and he was telling me how he feels about situation in Turkey. One of the things he was saying is, I think that Turkey is not producing a lot of food. They are not producing a lot of things to basically satisfy their own demand. Now, you don't want to be recorded, so I'm not going to record you, but is that basically what you were saying, that there is not enough things, and that's why you think inflation is happening? Yes. So there is not enough food, inflation is there, lira is dropping because there is not enough production. This brings to mind remarks from a professor at the start who said that Turkey faces self-sufficiency challenge requiring the import of food and wheat from Russia. Young people also shared similar concerns, as did my taxi driver.
We're not actually able to take care of ourselves anymore.
But the question remains, has the Turkey's capacity for food production genuinely diminished over the past few decades compared to its historical performance? Would you be actually surprised to know that in terms of the food production, Turkey is one of the top 10 producers of food and agricultural produce in the world? Actually, they produce so much and they export so much that it makes them one of the top 10 countries in the world. Would that surprise you?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
In fact, Turkey is a major producer of various agricultural products including wheat, sugar, beets, milk, poultry, cotton, tomatoes, and an array of fruits and vegetables. Additionally, it holds the top spot worldwide for apricot and hazelnut production. Furthermore, Turkey boasts an impressive export portfolio with 1,827 different agricultural products being shipped to 193 countries around the world. This brings us back to the initial question raised. If Turkey is so successful in food production, why do they need to import wheat from Russia? Answer is actually very simple. Turkey's import of wheat from Russia and other countries has been increasing primarily due to their participation in the global value chain exports. By importing wheat as a raw material, Turkey transforms it into higher value-added products such as pasta, biscuits, and other wheat-based goods, which are then exported. This process of engaging in a global value chain is a positive development for Turkey's economy, allowing it to benefit from increased trade and specialization in the production of higher value-added products. Our professor, an economist by training, looked at a narrow set of information and drew the conclusion that Turkey imports were a sign of diminishing production capabilities and an inability to feed itself. In reality, to truly understand what's happening, all it takes is some common sense and a walk through the streets to witness the true state of affairs.
This is a very typical neighborhood. People live around the mosque. There's a mosque. There is almost like a little town square. And there are all of these shops. It's the middle of the winter here. The shops are full of fresh produce that's grown here, right here in Turkey. Whatever you wanna buy, it's fresh, it's beautiful. That's because they are growing things multiple times per year. So there is plenty of food. What's interesting about this country is that it is self-sufficient in terms of the food. But let me take you to my favorite shop, see my friends. So I buy things from all around the places. Every place has something that is good. This place has got beautiful organic honey, eggs, olives, cheese, just beautiful. In the morning when I make those eggs, Assalamu alaikum rahmetullah. Rahmetullah, how are
hoş
you? Good to
geldin.
see you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you very much.
Allah
Good to
razı
see you.
olsun.
So this is my favorite store, as I said. It has the most beautiful things. Let's check it out what's inside. Assalamu alaikum rahmetullah. Top quality honey. Like, look, you can't find this honey, honestly. When I try this honey, local honey, top quality, I always remember the saying sweet as honey. But sometimes you go, you taste the honey, it's not sweet until you try this honey. Olive oil, beautiful. Look at these olives. The most beautiful olives you will ever see. All locally grown, made. If you could sense the smell. Some may argue that this story isn't an accurate reflection of reality, claiming that it's merely my perception as someone from Australia who can afford food at any price, while ordinary people on fixed wages, students and pensioners struggle. Critics might also point to a growing wage gap, increasing poverty and other challenges. So let's examine production level, business trends, unemployment, wages, and income inequality. So let's start with agriculture production. Real production, adjusted for inflation, has nearly doubled between 2002 and 2022. The production of high-tech industrial goods in Turkey has experienced a remarkable 4 times increase within a 12-year span, highlighting a clear transformation in the nation's production base. Economic growth is reflected even in the rising number of the newly established firms every year. On unemployment, over 13 million new individuals have entered the labor force in Turkey in the last 17 years, keeping unemployment rate steady. Despite temporary spikes during the COVID-19 and global financial crisis, Turkey's unemployment rate is on the downward trend, signaling significant success. We have also seen a noticeable increase in labor productivity over the last decade. In line with productivity, real wages, when adjusted for inflation, have experienced a significant surge over the past decade. In many cases, when you have high economic growth, you often experience increase in income inequality. However, Turkey's economic success story defies this trend, with income inequality remaining relatively stable and showcasing a more inclusive growth model. Similar story is with the poverty rates, where we can see a considerable decline over the last decade. This highlights Turkey's commitment to ensuring a better quality of life for its citizens.
But why am I buying these things really expensive?
Why are you buying that?
My money is not enough for them, really.
I
earn money, but it's not enough for me.
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. I think not an easy to answer that, but I'll try. Examining the producer and market prices difference reveals a structural problem that contributes to the food inflation. For instance, an agricultural product sold to the wholesale market at 100 Turkish lira can end up costing the consumer several times more for some products. Let me give you some example. The price of lemon at the producer level is 3.5 Turkish lira. At the market, it is 15.5. That's 344% difference. These apples, 5 lira a kilo, 17.9 in the supermarkets. That is 258% difference. Some of the food inflation we see is a result of exploitation by those seeking profit, but not all. As one of my students, Baturhan, explained, fearing inflation, shopkeepers might make larger price increases sooner to future-proof their prices, actually contributing to inflation itself and fueling panic. Now,
Let's take a closer look at the current state of inflation and see if we can make sense of Turkey's monetary policies. Average inflation rate. Between 2002 and 2022, Turkey's average inflation rate stood at 14.7%. Although there has been a recent sudden rise, inflation has been on the downward trend. If we zoom into this spike that happened recently, we can see that inflation has been decreasing since October of 2022. And forecasts for the near future indicate that inflation will continue to go down. So now, big picture. The past 2 decades since 2002 have shown a clear contrast in inflation rates. And if you look at the graph, you will notice that before 2002, inflation was volatile, going sometimes 60, 70, up to 100%, up to sometimes 140%. Let's tackle the big question. Why did President Erdoğan go against conventional policies that the rest of the world adopted at the same time? Why build this economy only to seemingly jeopardize it with inflation, especially with election just around the corner? Is there any other way to interpret these actions? Traditional beliefs imply that inflation, which is the increase in prices of goods and services, can be reduced by raising the cost of money or debt through higher interest rates.
The literature, the mainstream literature says that you have to increase interest rates to tackle inflation problem. It is not a universal fact.
This perspective remained prevalent until the onset of the pandemic and the conflict in Ukraine. The decline of globalization, driven by the breakdown of global supply chains, made production more challenging and expensive, impacting the supply side of economics.
I remember recently there is a report written by Stiglitz, and he says that increasing interest rates is not a good idea to fight against inflation in the United States.
The report Mr. Tariq referred to is the Roosevelt Institute's December 2022 publication titled The Causes of and Responses to Today's Inflation, co-authored by Professor Joseph Stiglitz. Professor Stiglitz, a distinguished economist, currently serves as the chief economist of the Roosevelt Institute and a university professor at Columbia University. He was awarded the Nobel Prize in Economics for his contribution to the field. And yes, I know, it was only a matter of time before we discussed the insights of a Nobel Prize-winning economist in this documentary. Professor Stiglitz's report concludes that today's inflation is primarily driven by supply shocks and sectoral demand shifts, rather than by excess aggregate demand. Therefore, monetary policy, including raising interest rates, is too blunt an instrument and would not be effective in addressing the issue. Even in Australia, newspapers have reported that the Australian Parliament's Economics Committee expressed concerns that raising interest rates could be the wrong response to inflation driven by international supply chain factors. The committee highlighted that such a move could risk harming Australian households. As it turns out, President Erdoğan's decision to lower interest rates were not only the most appropriate response to inflation, but also a well-calculated strategy that much of the world overlooked.
We particularly saw during the COVID-19 days that the preparation process for the last 2 decades opened the new gates for this country in the post-COVID period. How? We saw that value chains in many countries have just stopped.
For Turkey, strategically situated at the heart of global supply chains, raising interest rates would result in decreased production and exports during a time when the world needed the supply side of economy the most.
But Turkey was ready for taking a leading role in global value chain. And now, as opposed to the repercussions of the COVID-19 in many other countries, it can still continue to produce, it can still export to many other countries.
This strategic move ultimately led to a significant boom in Turkey's exports. On exports, in 2002, Turkey's export amounted to just over $30 billion back then. Over the past 2 decades, this figure has surged to impressive $254 billion in 2022. This was the country's highest level ever. And by the way, this was at the time when everybody was saying that their economy is done and finished. Now take a look at this. The graph shows a significant, bigger picture boost in export over the past 2 decades compared to that period before 2002. Reuters even reported that the exports to the European Union increased by 12%, while over 10,000 companies completed their first exports in the same period. Turkey's export performance since 2005 has exceeded that of many global competitors, illustrating its strong position in the worldwide market. Following my father's principle of a healthy economy based on the movements of trucks and ships, with an abundance of movement and activity in production, job creation, growth and exports, Turkey's economy is undeniably doing well. Back in Melbourne, I met up with my longtime friend Kazim, who has been following Turkish politics for years.
There is something quite unique about Erdoğan that many people don't consider. He's probably the first and only grassroots political leader in Turkey. All of the other ones in the last 100 years have all been parachuted in. But Erdoğan is the first political leader who got into politics when he was a teenager, 15, 16 years old, taking up duties and posts and positions. And he wanted to be a part of the change. So when he's lived it, he knows what the people have been living through.
In 2000, Kazim had the pleasure of hosting President Erdoğan in his home for 3 weeks when he came to Melbourne.
Avustralya'da bulunan Türkiye Cumhuriyetimizin değerli...
And he was sick of, lack of education, lack of medication, lack of hospitals in Turkey, roads and facilities and infrastructure, the potholes, the mud, the dirt, the low income, pensioners not receiving any money or hardly any money, people queuing up at the hospitals, for 48 hours just to see a doctor or waiting weeks to get medication. No running water in the city of Istanbul, up until the 90s when he became mayor.
Yeah. This is Mehmet Han. He's a local. He still lives here.
Ben sizi Yusuf Aleyhisselam'a benzetiyorum şu şekilde. Estağfurullah. O açıdan değil. Yusuf Aleyhisselam'a benzetiyorum şu şekilde.
To me, I compare you with Yusuf Aleyhisselam. But he was persecuted. And then he became the Yusuf that we know, with achieving all high status. And I believe that you will end to become the president of this country.
İşte Allah'ın izniyle siz de Türkiye'nin reisi cumhuru olacaksınız. Bu millet böyle bilsin ve bu şekilde.
So guys, that's what you're going to be. You're going to reach the highest of positions. And look at his response. He says, people are good at, firing up people. He goes, people make me prime ministers and presidents all the time. People are like, but he goes, nothing happens by just talking.
Can you just repeat that story about him driving, like?
Really?
Yeah.
So we had this very extensive program, and it involved a visit to Sydney as well. I wanted him to also see part of the country, so I designed the trip from Melbourne to Bright to Canberra and to Sydney. So we go through the Great Dividing Range onto the Snowy Mountains, and also show him the Snowy Mountain project. And when we took off from Meadow Heights, soon we were on the Hume Freeway. And as we were driving along, he said, pull the car over. I said, why? He said, I want to drive. I said to him, Abi, you can't drive. You shouldn't drive because you still got jet lag and the traffic was a bit different. Our steering wheel is on the wrong side compared to Türkiye's. And he said, no. And he became more serious when I said to him all of that. He said, pull the car over, I want to drive. And then Mrs. Erdoğan also, she was at the back with my wife. And she said, Tayyip Bey, I believe Kazım is right. You shouldn't be driving. You're tired and you've got jet lag. And besides, the car is, the steering wheel's on the wrong side. But he became more and more adamant that he wanted to drive because I think it brought back flashbacks to what he saw growing up in Turkey for most of his life, that you can't pray, you can't go to this mosque, you can't cover your hair, can't even read a poem. If you do, we'll throw you in jail, which they did. And so someone who has that kind of flashbacks or that kind of subconsciously, things that are tearing him down emotionally, that's what makes the man. So when I said to him, no, you can't drive, he said, what are you talking about? He said, pull the car over, I'm going to drive. And I did. So when Erdoğan says we're going to build 500,000 homes in 1 year for the victims of the earthquake, even the opposition doesn't dispute that.
Deprem oluyor gene.
Unfortunately, we woke up to the news of the earthquake. May Allah help those people. Everybody affected, a lot of family lost their loved one. May Allah give them patience, strength to recover. If you can donate something, if you can do something. Everybody's feeling a bit down, yeah?
Yes.
Everybody watching the news and it's the first Juma after the earthquake. So the situation still, everywhere you can feel it. This is going to be, inshallah, a very big experience for us. What are you expecting to see from this earthquake zone?
I'm expecting to see sadness and hope as well.
How it all crumbled. Assalamu alaikum, boys.
Alaikum salam,
How are you? How are you? Very good,
very good.
How are you?
Very good.
Very good. What are you doing? We are here in earthquake epicenter, and we are checking one of the Australian charities, Hassan, in terms of what they are doing, they have been doing fantastic work around here. As you can see, there is so many different things. These people need everything. You have generators, you have heaters, water, all kinds of supplies here. A lot of clothes, winter clothes. Rice made in Turkey.
Kayseri.
Kayseri.
Nerede öğrettin? Kayseri.
Also from Kayseri. Also from Kayseri. Again, we say Alhamdulillah, whatever happened, at least there are a lot of people who jump to help. So no matter unfortunate circumstances, but we have seen the best of humanity come at the time that is most needed. It's Maghrib time here. You know what I was thinking?
Yeah.
In these earthquake zones, when these things happen, I don't know how many of us think of these animals, you know, what happens to them, how do we treat them? This poor dog.
Devastating earthquakes in Turkey. Was that the capacity that's needed in the event of such?
Now this is gonna.
So we are here at one of these locations where you see these new TÜRKİYE buildings coming up. And these are the buildings that did exceptionally well during the earthquake. Apparently most of them were not as damaged, or they pretty much survived quite well this latest earthquake. And in the past many criticized them. But as you can see, the work done by government on these buildings is of quality. You know, for these projects to be financially viable, it will have to have some innovative solutions. And this is where strong economy, powerful economy is very important. And this is why I would say, don't measure economy just by few indicators, but think about what country is able to do. Quickly shore up its resources and sort of rise from the ruin. And this is what we see wherever I go in Turkey. I see very hard-working people mobilizing resources, building, and I think we will see in very short time this country back on its feet again, inshallah.
Many have asked me, why do I care about the situation in Turkey?
Welcome to the Turkish Embassy. Thank you.
I gave them answer I gave in 2016.
Airport, and then was so amazed and relieved when I saw the people power of so many hundreds of thousands of just common Turkish citizens coming out to defend.
Başladılar. Tartaklamaya başladılar. Ben dedim ki ben buraya dedim 2 çocuğumu bırakarak buraya kadar geldim. Ben mi düşmanım dedim, siz mi düşmansınız?
Sakin ol, tamam.
We came from many different organizations and background to say that we are with the Turkey. We appreciate moral and ethical leadership that President Erdoğan and his government are displaying. We are very concerned. We follow the situation. We are with the Turkish people and we are here to show our support.
But there is more to this answer. And there are compelling reasons why this untold story of Turkey's economy must be told, and why it must be told now. The first reason is simple. I love this story. That is why I am sharing it. The second reason is that Turkey stands at a crucial crossroads. As the next election approaches, truth is scarce, and thoughtful and insightful conversations are missing. Certain media outlets are downplaying the positive developments and amplifying the negative. They are erasing the remarkable story of success and future by replacing it with a new narrative of a sick economy of the world, fueled by old stereotypes and prejudices. This only adds to the polarization and sense of disempowerment. But the way I see it, Turkey has strategically oriented itself to seize future opportunities, aiming to become a leading self-sufficient economy. The key drivers of its growth, beyond a young, educated workforce and technological advancements, seem to be built on this four-pillar strategy. The first pillar of this strategy is building a strong industrial base. This entails the ability to produce and manufacture, whether it's physical goods, services, or digital products. From crafting simple car parts,
It's for Renault, they make it. This one is made for the Ford.
to manufacturing their own drones and electric cars, and even venturing into space, Turkey has continuously expanded its economic foundation. Production and imports are interconnected, and before we move on to the next point, here are some noteworthy statistics to consider. Consistent with the growth in export, Turkey's import has also surged over the past 2 decades. Now, on the composition of those imports from 2013 to 22, over half of Turkey's imports consisted of intermediary goods, and these are the goods that are used in productions for export. And then from 2021 to 22, the cost of energy significantly increased. If energy prices have remained at their 2015 level, Turkey would have saved over $61 billion on imports. Now, why is that important? This is important when we talk about criticism regarding the current account deficit that some people are raising. Without the burden of high energy import costs, Turkey's current account deficit would transform into a surplus. Now, I know it's easy to just exclude major costs, but on the issue of deficit, by increasing higher value production and export while decreasing expensive energy inputs, and Turkey is working on energy independence, Turkey aims then to balance this out and transform the deficit into the surplus. The second pillar in this four-pillar strategy is infrastructure. Turkey has placed a strong focus on establishing a robust infrastructure that supports its industrial growth. Hard infrastructure like roads, bridges, tunnels, and digital networks, coupled with soft infrastructure in the form of services and institutions, has enabled the seamless delivery of goods and services, both physically and digitally.
We are at one of the Istanbul train stations where those fast trains are leaving. If you read newspapers years ago, they would have told you that there is no economy to build railway lines, fast trains, airports, all of this infrastructure. But we are looking at some of these achievements, fast trains, right in front of us. So if you believe the newspapers, according to them, this shouldn't be here. But we are looking at it.
The third pillar of this strategy is monetary and fiscal policies. To safeguard this industrial base and infrastructure, Turkey adopted strategic policies. These measures were designed to reverse the effects of dollarization, enhance lira usage known as lirazation, and foster economic independence. It is not just about protecting the economy from financial shocks, but also about ensuring that policies support economic growth and work in favor of the nation's long-term interests. Here are sample stats to highlight strategic impact of these policies with regards to debt, liabilities, and interest rates.
In 2021, Turkey's total public sector net debt to GDP ratio was approximately 1/3 of what it was back in 2002. Turkey's public net debt remains amongst the lowest compared to several large countries worldwide that you see. In the last 2 decades, a key development in public finance has been the considerable reduction in the public sector's interest payments, contributing to low public debt levels.
In this graph, you can see interest rates before and now. The comparison is very clear. Before 2002, they would often go to 50%, sometimes 100, and sometimes interest rates would go 200+%. Within the central bank's total reserves have been increasing since 2020. Also, there has been strategic shift in composition from foreign currencies to gold. Since 2005, Turkey's banking assets to GDP ratio has doubled, indicating a robust and growing financial sector. In 2002, unfortunately, Turkey experienced an overshooting of the exchange rate. But despite challenging circumstances, we see Bursa Istanbul has outperformed inflation and alternative investment tools, particularly since 2020. Since 2020, all sectors in Turkey have become net debt payers, and Turkey has reduced its net external liabilities, indicating a decrease in its external debt to the rest of the world. Today, Turkey boasts one of the lowest household debt to GDP ratio amongst OECD countries and even emerging markets. This resilience factor offers significant protection against future financial crises. The fourth pillar of this strategy is energy independence. Energy independence through the exploration of domestic sources like oil, gas and nuclear plays a pivotal role in Turkey's growth story. It not only reduces the need for importation, but also decreases production costs, making the economy more competitive. By focusing on industrial diversification, infrastructure development, strategic policy implementation, and energy independence, Turkey is not just preparing for the future, it is actively shaping it. A comparison with neighboring regions such as MENA, OECD, and the European Union further highlights the success of this untold story thus far. Turkey's average real GDP growth rate between 2002 and 2021 is comparable to that of the East Asian countries and significantly higher than its neighboring nations. And therefore, Turkey's average per capita real GDP growth rate between 2002 and 2021 has been nothing short of astonishing. UNDP Human Development Index provides a summary. Turkey's performance in this regard has been quite impressive. What does it mean? It means that Turkey has been overperforming some of the largest economies in the world. It's also a big success. This growth has been sustained over a long period of time. And Turkey has always been underestimated. So when we compare it with the other countries in the region, we see on net it's a positive outcome. Meet my friend Noor, who shared the journey with me, traveled with me, and observed my conversation with young people. Here are some of his own observations after the end of our journey.
Seeing different people, different opinions on the economic situation was actually enlightening, especially when you see the gap between different ages. So for me, it was interesting to see the difference between how young people think and how the old people are thinking about the economic situation. I felt like there's a huge gap of how people are speaking on the business management and manufacturing levels. The producers, the company owners, and so on, they have a different perspective than the young people, but there isn't much communication between the two sides. Me as part of them, I previously didn't really see the image the way I see it now. I was previously thinking of it the way I listen to the media, right? Everything is crashing, it's not going well. But as I read and as I listen to more people from the different sides, and as we go to the streets and listen to the people and listen to the numbers, which the numbers growing, which the economy's growth, it's really interesting. It's a case to go through.
So what would you advise young people to think about? What are some of the things they should know when they are making we don't want to tell them how to vote, but what should they be thinking as they are voting? What are some of the principles or things they should know or think about as they cast their vote?
I would say we need to think of the consequences. This is really important. Go through the facts. Understand what's the situation now. Understand what was the situation before. Compare, instead of comparing with other countries, compare what your country is doing now and what the country has been doing in the last 25, 30 years, right? What's the consequences of your decision? If you choose this party or if you choose this one. This is actually what I think people forget about the most. We want change, and then what's after the change?
We are in Istiklal Street, Taksim, a scene of the last terrorist attack just recently actually happened. And what is interesting with this country is that despite all of the things that have been happening, the country continue to grow and prosper, and they don't buckle up and they don't fall on their knees. The rest of the world is dealing with pandemic and shortage of maybe gas and other commodity because one war. This country is dealing with a multiple issue on the multiple fronts. So to be a president in this country, to lead this nation across this maze of international, local and regional issue takes a really very skillful master player.
I think Erdoğan is a blessing to the area. He has changed things. If the Western powers are not happy with something, then you've got to think what's going on. If they're happy with some regime or something that's happening around the world, you've got to be really concerned.
Something is deficient in capitalism, in socialism. They do something, they get some targets, but not all. Something is defective, and they are looking for something, and only Islam may bring everybody the wealth, the happiness.
The next 10 years, there's a snowballing effect. When you roll a snowball from the hill, the first revolution compared to the 100th revolution is not 100 times bigger, it's probably 1,000,000 times bigger. That's where Turkey is at the moment.